Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, May the 18th. We like to do on Sundays, just about every Sunday. We're chatting with our good friend George Rodriguez from South Texas. George, it's always great to see you.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
We're supposed to be getting rain tonight. What's happening down in San Antonio?
We might be getting some tomorrow, but at the same time, it may just be a glancing blow. We really need much more rain than what we've been getting. Much more rain.
All right, yeah, we can always use rain in Texas. That is the one. I think about the only region of Texas that gets enough rain is East Texas.
East
But
Texas.
yeah,
Houston.
but just about Houston, but just about every other area of Texas can always use a little bit extra rain. It doesn't help. Well, here's a little on this day in history, George. I just wanted to bring this up at the beginning because I think it's pretty significant. 1860, that would make it 165 years ago, I guess. 165, yeah. Abraham Lincoln was nominated by the GOP in their convention. Now, he didn't go there as the leading candidate. He actually ended up getting nominated in the third vote. They had three votes, and he got it in number three. He was kind of a compromise candidate, I guess,
Yep.
between some of the others. But I just thought it was interesting that he was nominated on this day in 1860. And I don't know the name, but I bet it'd be a great trivia question to know who his vice president was. That'd be a great trivia question. That would be, it wasn't Andrew Johnson. That was in the second term.
Yeah, that was the second. That was
That was the second term.
vice
But it was,
president.
yes, the second time. But when he was reelected in 64. But I tell you, that would be a great trivia question to find out. I know there's a lady who's a history teacher. I'm not going to put her on the spot, but there's a lady who's a history teacher who always listens to our show. And I have a funny feeling that she knows, because if anybody knows about American history, is the U.S. history teacher. So I'm hoping that she will put a note during the show, or at least email me with the information. Who was Abraham Lincoln's vice president in 1860? That's a great trivia question. Man, that'll get some people. That'll win you a few dollars if you know that one. Well, George,
in fact, I just found out it's
you just
Hannibal
found out.
Hamlin. Hannibal Hamlin was
Hannibal
his running
Hamlin.
mate.
All right.
How about that?
Do you think somebody could run for office today with the name Hannibal?
Like Hannibal Lecter?
I just don't think that's one of those names that I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that would be a different name, Hannibal. Yeah, that would be a different name. And I wonder, what did Hannibal do? Was he a senator? Was he? Do you know?
He was a congressman.
He was a congressman. Okay, all right. Of course, Lincoln was a senator.
Yep.
Although he was not a senator, I think, when he ran.
No,
because he lost, right?
Yeah.
He was a private citizen. He was a private citizen. Private citizen. By the way, in that movie, Lincoln, that came out about 10 years ago, where they tell the story of how Lincoln worked with members of Congress to pass the 13th Amendment. Great movie, by the way. In that movie, they take you to the 1864 election when he's getting reports from different states as to how the vote is going. I thought that was really interesting. We're so used to following it on the TV, on the radio, on the internet. And back then it was like cables, they were getting telegrams, I guess, or cables reporting the information. Well, George, let's get started tonight with some bad news, to say the least. Former President Biden was diagnosed with a very bad case of prostate cancer.
Advanced.
And, obviously we wish the president the best, the former president the best. Not a nice thing to have, prostate cancer. Many people have not survived that. But it just raises more questions about this man. How is it possible, George? And I don't want to get into a bunch of conspiracies, but how is it possible that they give him a medical exam? What is this? Not even 90 days after he left office, or 100 days, and they find advanced prostate cancer. But just last time, the White House doctor said he's fine. He's great for an 81-year-old, no problems. I mean, come on, that's a terrible coincidence, or so a very bad doctor. I don't know what to tell you, George.
Yeah, it sounds very, very strange, to say the least. It's very sad. The news makes it sound very serious that it is an advanced. He is in an advanced state. However, you've got to ask yourself, just like you're saying, didn't they know about this? I mean, how did that get past people if it's that advanced?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't. And George, when we get to be our age, we we go to the doctor, and that's one of the things
Regularly.
they always. Yeah, and that's one of the things they always check. And believe me, the president of the United States has far better medical care, and he should, than I do or anybody else does.
Yeah,
And I know one of the things they always
they
check
draw
with-
blood, and you can tell a lot from the blood that they draw. So I don't understand. I don't understand how this slipped through. So
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it's a crazy suggestion. By the way, we just got a comment here from one of our viewers, and I thought it was interesting. He says, "Why is George El Conservador podcast not on TuneIn anymore?"
it is not on because I am not on the radio.
Oh, okay.
Network.
Okay,
I'm
that's
not on
it.
the radio network anymore. I'm on the internet, and
Okay.
you can check me out on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on various others.
Well, the real reason, let me explain to this nice listener who checked in. The real reason is because we offered George a contract that he couldn't turn down.
Yes, there you go.
So we offered him a contract that he just couldn't turn down. So that's why he decided to throw everything away and just come and work with us. No, not really, not really. He is on his own, and I watch the videos that he does. They're great quality videos, and I would definitely recommend. I think you can watch him on what? On Facebook? I see him on Facebook.
I've got him on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter or X,
Okay.
and also on what's the other one? Well, there's several of them. There's several. All you have to do is just look for George Rodriguez El Conservador.
Right. George Rodriguez El Conservador, and you're going to find a lot of information about our friend George. He's been around for a while and has been very active with political opinions. Well, again, I think this whole thing with President Biden, it's sad as a personal story, of course, but this whole cover-up, George, and I think there's going to be a tendency now to ease up on President Biden because of the cancer, and I understand that. I'm not gonna.
But the question still remains: who was signing all of these important documents, particularly the executive orders? Who was signing that? Who had control of that?
And there's a story that I'll never forget. It came up again. I remember McCarthy, when he was the speaker, saying this, and then it came up again. I just read it the other day that one day Speaker McCarthy, and I think Speaker Johnson had the same experience. They went to the White House and they said to the president, "Can't believe you signed that." And he said, "What do you mean? I didn't sign that.
Yeah,
I didn't."
Exactly.
I mean, and that happened twice. So you have to wonder.
That should have been an indicator. That could have been an indicator right there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but when you have when you have a president, he's so detached. You could tell when he was in public, he seemed to be so uncomfortable with
when he was on The View last week.
Yeah, that's right. Jill has to step in and basically bail him out at one point. I mean, just jump in and look. I think it's a sorry story. I think it's a sad story because I'm beginning to feel a little bit sorry for him in the sense that not because of the prostate, that's different, but a little sorry for him because I don't think he knows everything that was done in his name, George.
No, I think it's very, very evident, if not obvious, that he was not in control of the White House. And we, as a nation, deserve to know who was and what was their motive, what was their agenda. I think it's very, very serious when you have a president by committee, as somebody put it the other day.
Right.
When you have a president by committee and you don't know who the committee is.
Right. And you don't know if the president authorized the committee.
Yes.
that's
I mean, he
the
was
other
very, very
thing.
much out of touch in that aspect.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't doubt that at some time there may have been a president who used his cabinet or used his people. Um, I mean, I wouldn't say that it never happened before, but
President Wilson. Wilson was
right.
incapacitated for a couple of
That's right. A
for
couple of
several
years.
months, and
Yeah.
his wife ran it.
Right.
And but the thing is that members of the Senate, members of the House, as well as his cabinet, all knew that his wife was helping because she was the one that talked to him.
Right. And as I understand, basically they would give her the documents, and then she would go to President Wilson and say, "Sign this one, but not that one," right? Something like that.
Right.
But that was also not defending that situation with Wilson. That was a different time too.
It was a different time, very much different.
Yeah, very different time. I mean, you can get away, you could hide a lot easier back then than you could right now. But I do think this cover up has to be investigated, George, because I want to know. For example, the pardons. Did he actually sign those pardons?
Exactly.
Did he? Who
Did
was
he know
running?
about
Did he know about them? What about the auto pen, the machine? We talked about this a few weeks ago.
Well, that's the main thing that I'm thinking of. Who was in control of the auto machine?
Yes.
That bothers me because whoever had control of that used his signature for whatever they wanted, and that bothers me. That worries me.
And George, you were in the White House. You worked in the White House, so you know how. I think at one time you told me exactly where the auto pen machine was. That it was
Or
in
where
some
it used to
room.
be.
Yeah, it used to be, of course. Yeah, where it used to be when Reagan was there, or Bush was there, but the whole idea, to me, that's the scary part of this scandal. We somebody else was running this country for a while, and thankfully we never had a 3 a.m. phone call.
No.
But I mean, imagine if there had been a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, or for any time of the day. Really, these calls come in any time. But imagine a phone call comes in, and the Secretary of Defense is on the phone, and he's trying to get the president to make a decision. And the president is, well, he's not, as I say, he's not there. Very sad situation. I do think we need an investigation of it. We need Congress to have a joint, House Senate committee, and have some of these people come in and answer some questions as to what they were doing, George. I really believe that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that we need to get to the bottom of it, because the American people deserve to know who was actually running the country.
Yep.
Because it was not Joe Biden. It was not Joe Biden. That much I know. And I'm more convinced of that now than ever, that it was not him. I'm more convinced of that than ever. Well, let's go to another story. This particular story, George, this is somewhere between comical and tragedy. You tell me which one, maybe both. But this Mexican ship in New York City, there's a ship in New York, and I've been on the Brooklyn Bridge. I walked it. I mean, a couple of times. It's a very neat place to walk. My wife and I walked it one time. We were in New York, and we walked. We even took some pictures of ourselves on the Brooklyn Bridge with the backdrop and all of that, pretending that we were John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever. Remember, that's where the part of that movie was filmed. But anyway, that's a pretty big bridge. I don't know that. I mean, if you're navigating but if you're navigating in New York City waters, you would think you're familiar with the fact that there's a big bridge there. So how do you? I mean, what an incredible oversight! I don't know how else to explain it, George.
It was. I was watching TV yesterday evening, and we had a break. And at first, I thought, maybe it's a terrorist attack on the bridge. But no, as the hour went on and more information came, everybody was asking the same question that we are: how the heck did this happen? The people in charge of that boat, of this Mexican schooner, should know how tall the mast is. The
Mm.
second thing is that they should know how tall the bridges are that they're going to go under.
Right.
And in this case, they didn't know anything. And sadly, people were killed. Two people
Right.
were killed that were sitting on the mast trying to navigate, as well as others that were on the boat themselves.
Right.
So several people were injured and two were killed. This is, I mean, to me, it's outrageous.
It is, and you have to wonder, somebody, there's some responsibility there. But I mean, even when they were navigating, I mean, when they were moving around, they were men or sailors, I guess, hanging, like they do, they stand
Yeah.
like that as a way
It's
of
a schooner.
salute.
It's a schooner. They have masts. Yeah.
Yes. And they were, standing there, I guess, saluting. It
Yep.
kind of reminded me a little bit, George, of back in 1976 when they had those ships. Remember?
Yes,
When
I remember
in
that.
the bicentennial, they had those ships, and I remember that I was
Tall
living in the tall ships, and I remember that I was living in Baltimore at the time, and there were some ships that came in there. One of them was from Chile, the other one, a couple of countries that sent in ships into the Baltimore harbor, and they had the big mast, and it was pretty spectacular, really, to
They
see these
negotiated
ships.
it. They navigated it.
Yeah, but this idea that you're navigating under the Brooklyn Bridge, and I mean, if you see the video of that thing, he's off by like 50 feet.
Yeah,
It's not like he missed it by a little bit.
no.
I mean, he missed
which
it
is what I
completely.
thought when I heard it was, well, I guess they scraped it. No, this is a
No.
real heavy direct hit.
Yeah, and that's why so many people are injured, because this captain really exposed not just the ship, but several of his sailors. Yeah, the crew.
Everybody that was
several
injured is part of the crew.
Yeah, I mean, what a terrible situation. I hope they get to the bottom of it.
Well, it's really bad PR for Mexico, that's for sure.
No, you're right. It's not a good situation. Now, I was watching a news conference, and I think there was somebody from the Mexican embassy or Mexican consulate in New York City, and he was explaining that this is a ship. It's like a friendship ship, if I could put it that way, friendship ship. And it goes around the world, sending greetings around the world from Mexico.
Right.
So that's kind of what it is. But what a terrible.
But again, does that excuse the fact that they didn't know how to navigate underneath the Brooklyn Bridge?
Yeah, you just cannot explain. I mean, to me, you just cannot defend that. I mean, that captain had to know where he was going with that ship. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Well, a couple of other topics I wanted to get to you tonight, George. One is in this new, what Trump likes to call the beautiful bill, there is a 5%. They're calling it a tax, but it's not really a tax. It's a fee on remittances. So whenever you send a remittance, you go to Western Union or whatever, and you wire money to your family anywhere in the world, they're going to charge you a 5% fee, which I guess they're calling it a tax, but it's whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
But instead of sending $100, you're now going to send $95. And when you look at the amounts of money that we're talking about, for example, in the case of Mexico, last year, $63 billion in remittances in the last year, which was 24. We look at other countries, very significant amounts of money that are going out to other countries. And in the case of Mexico in particular, it's their single source of cash. It's greater than tourism. It's greater than oil revenues, agricultural exports, auto parts, I mean, whatever they export. This is much greater than that. And I was reading a little bit, I sent you the article, but I was reading a little bit that most of the money seems to go to small towns and low-income families. Right. So, it's generally, it's a subsidy, basically. That's what it is. It's a subsidy for your family. I mean, the intention is good. I'm not going to deny that, at least much of the case in Mexico. But my situation is, the reason I've always felt that there should be a fee on these remittances, number one, because it is a capital flight. I
Correct.
mean, billions of dollars are leaving communities in the United States, and this is money that could be used for school districts, for police. I mean, let's face it. I mean, that's just the reality. And the other thing, I think, in particular, in the case of Mexico or Cuba or some of these other countries, I think that what these dollars are doing, these remittances are doing, is it's subsidizing some pretty bad policies
Exactly.
and encouraging illegal immigration.
That's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. The number one enticement for illegal immigration historically has been the economy, has been coming to work and sending stuff home, sending money home. Now, in sending money home, first of all, you're working without authorization. You're an illegal alien working under the radar, working without authorization. Number two, of course, you are displacing local labor, regardless of what they say that they're doing jobs that Americans won't do. They're doing jobs that Americans won't do because they're doing them, and at the same time they're doing them cheap, and at the same time we have a welfare system for American citizens that's much better than them doing hard work. So that then the point that the other issue is that these folks are not, they're working under the table. So they in actuality are not paying any taxes whatsoever. So I think it's very fair that they pay on the remittance, that they pay this fee, because at least then they are paying something. And it is billions of dollars. Again, I was, when I worked in the Reagan administration, I was in charge of a new division after the 1986 law was passed, of a new division called Employer and Labor Relations in the immigration service. And that had to do with strictly and only with employers that hired illegal aliens, as well as illegal aliens that were working. So I'm very familiar with this issue, and I applaud the effort to put some kind of tax fee, whatever you want to call it, on this, because it's time. It is very, very much time that illegal aliens paid for this.
Now, the Mexican government is complaining. They're saying that
Course.
Mexicans already pay taxes.
And I'd like to know, and when they say that they pay taxes, Silvio, they're talking about every time that they buy something.
Right.
And again, that everybody pays that tax, but what they don't pay are the employment taxes. What they don't pay are the income taxes. That's what they're not paying at all.
Right.
And people will say, well, they are paying taxes in some way. No. We are in a situation where we've got to make the playing field extremely level. And if you do, I guarantee that these folks will think twice. Now, it's a 5% tax.
Right.
I pay this past year on my income tax, I paid 25-30%.
Right.
Now, give me a break.
Right. Well, it's almost like, if you think about it, it's almost like a sales tax.
Yes.
I mean, they're paying roughly a little bit less than we pay here in Texas for sales taxes.
Exactly.
But
it's not that much.
No, it's not. And to me, I've always felt that that it is capital flight.
It is.
And I've been saying this for years. And now the Mexican government, as I say, they're not happy with this. They're saying that this is
going to
be
happy. They're not going to, because they want all the money.
Right.
And they had it their way. They'd send all the poor people over here so that we could support them, and then send money back. I mean,
and their whole attitude is you're hurting poor families in Mexico. Well, technically that's true.
Are we hurting them, or has Mexico and their economy hurt them?
That's right. And that's the way that's what I would say to them. I would say, well, why are these people having to come over here to look for work?
Exactly. Why don't you take care of them?
Why don't you or at least have a country that is more friendly for them, so that they can actually stay there and work. And so anyway, it looks like, well, it's part of the so-called beautiful bill. So whenever it gets signed, and
I like that part. I think it's very beautiful. That part, I love it.
Well, I like it too. And I've been saying it for quite some time that there has to be a fee on the money leaving the country because it is becoming now an outrageous amount of money.
It is. And it has
When
always been. It has always been an outrageous amount of money.
yeah,
It's gotten worse, particularly
well,
with
I mean,
all of these illegals that came in under Biden.
when you add up the money that is going to Mexico, to Central America, not so much South America as far as I know, but some of the Caribbean, I mean, Cuba gets $5 billion a year
Mm-hmm.
in remittances. I mean, how do you explain that? I mean, that's
It's outrageous.
unbelievable. So I think it's actually a good idea. I like the fact that we're taxing remittances so that at least
I
people
support it.
understand that there's a value. I mean, to so it's not just my money I'm sending home. No, you're sending money home that could be spent here to provide for schools
Exactly.
and other things.
Exactly.
Let me take you to another topic now, very much in the immigration arena, and that is this whole question of due process for someone who's in the country illegally. Now, there's the Supreme Court sent this case back to the fifth, where I guess we are the fifth court, Fifth Circuit Court, and they sent it back to the fifth, and they want the fifth to come up with, excuse me, some rules for due process, something that says, okay, this is how you do it. But if we've looked at deportations before, George, and you probably know this quite well from your work in this area, we actually deported people for many years without any
Exactly.
without any
That's
due
exactly
process.
right. There has this due process issue is something new that the Democrats have come up with to create a civil rights issue, to create a slowdown of the deportation. I mean, the last thing they want is mass deportation, particularly since we had mass invasion.
Right.
This situation, the way that I look at it, is two ways. First of all, these are lower courts that are acting on this issue. To me, that is very similar to one congressman, to one senator acting by themselves to pass a law. The Supreme Court is the only one that is equal to the president. The entire Congress is the only one that is equal to the president. The president's agenda is a reflection of of our will, of the votes. Now we've got we've got a district court, one judge, in this case, several single judges, interfering with the agenda of the president. In my opinion, what needs to happen is that these district courts, these district judges, need to take it to the Supreme Court and let the Supreme Court argue the issue with the president. Let them come to an agreement as to what is due process, whether or not an illegal alien that entered the country illegally, especially one that has committed crimes, even has due process. That is all part of the question that needs to be discussed.
Right.
And at this point, the only thing that the Democrats are hanging their hats on is the issue of due process and civil rights. Well, let's deal with the big picture of whether or not an illegal alien has due process, or if they even have civil rights, since they are illegally in the United States and they entered illegally in the United States.
Now, the analysis that I've heard from several people is that the court didn't say no to using this Alien Act or whatever it is. They're not ruling that the usage of that act is unconstitutional. It seems to me, and this is what I hear from people a lot smarter than me on this, what they're saying is that the Supreme Court wants to hear from the Fifth, which is the circuit where we live here in Texas and Oklahoma, Louisiana, and then have them come up with some ideas as to what due process is. Is it 1 day? Is it 5 days? Is it 6 days? Or is there anything? Is there anything? So I think that that's what they're doing. They're trying to maybe cover that base, and just to be safe, I guess, from a civil rights standpoint. But I mean, look, I think if in the past we have deported people, I'm not saying it was right, but in the past we have deported people, um, without any kind of
Without
due
the due
process.
process, right?
And now it is fair, and somebody put a note about this right now, that in the past there were some U.S. citizens that were deported to Mexico, I guess in the 1920s or whatever. And I don't know the history of that, and I'll give this person who sent that comment the benefit of the doubt. So I don't have a problem, George, if there is, for example, if
There
you're
are going
being,
to be mistakes. Look,
yes,
once again, talking to Mr. Tejano historian, there are going to be mistakes. There was a mass invasion, Millions of people came in. How are we going to ever get millions of people out of here if we're going to do due process on every single one of them? And in the process, there may be some people that are accidentally. I was interviewed by Univision the other day, and the reporter literally asked me, "Am I not afraid of getting deported by accident?" Well, no, I'm not, because I can prove that I am a citizen. Now, if somebody has a hard time proving they are a citizen, then I've got to ask myself. I think there's greater question than that.
well, yeah, go ahead.
But the situation of whether or not wrongfully individuals are going to get, there might be in the 1920s. There were a lot. I don't know if it was a lot. There were some. I know the history of that. And it was more during the period of the Depression in the 30s that happened. However, once again, there was a real effort in those days to stop illegal immigration, something that we certainly did not have the past 4 years.
Right. Well, that's it. And that's the problem, that it just got so totally out of control. As I say, I think that if you're going to accuse someone of being a part of a criminal organization, that I don't think it's unreasonable to say, okay, let me prove that you are. And frankly, it hasn't been that difficult for these people, because
It hasn't
very
been.
often
They've got police records.
well, not only that, but they're
Police
hanging
records.
around together. When they're hanging around together,
the old saying, "Dime con quién andas, te diré quién eres."
right? And when you better do a little translation of that.
Oh,
George.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Birds of a feather flock together.
right. That's the Spanish version of it. Yeah, right. But that's it. By the way, I like both of those expressions in English and in Spanish. They're completely different. They're not direct translations.
Yeah.
But I like them both. But no, I don't have a problem with the Supreme Court saying, look, if you're going to use this particular act, blaming somebody being a foreign terrorist, and okay, create something to prove that you are or you're not. I can live with that. But I think that in general, it shouldn't be that difficult to deport somebody. All you have to
they
prove
just don't
is,
want people deported. That's the problem.
well,
That's
I
the
think
bottom
so.
line.
I think that these district judges, certainly they're trying to push that to a
I think
ridiculous.
we should deport. There's several Democrats. We should start with deporting them first.
Well, there are a few that come to mind, George. I don't know. There is a congresswoman up here in the Texas area, North Texas area, who seems to have.
Can you imagine the screaming she would make?
Well, I think she wants her own TV show.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think is happening with that lady. I think she's looking for her own TV show. But anyway, George, another day, another show, another conversation. I want to thank you again so much for being a part of it. How is your speaking schedule these days?
I'm taking a hiatus for a couple of weeks. But after that, I may be going to Utah and to DC. So we will see.
And for those who used to listen to you on the radio there in San Antonio, you are
can
now.
Follow me. Yep, you can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on X, and you can follow me on. Oh gosh, what's the one that's the Chinese own?
TikTok?
TikTok, yes. I'm even on TikTok.
George, you're on TikTok?
I am on TikTok. I got a.
I'm gonna have to get on TikTok. I had no idea that they let. I thought TikTok was just for
Well, I
fun.
anticipate. I mean, you have no idea. You have no idea the number of nasty notes that I get. I thought I used to get a lot of nasty notes on the radio show as well as on Facebook. There's nothing like TikTok. Oh my gosh!
I got to tell you,
Go ahead.
I got to tell you a quick story about TikTok. I've never done a video on TikTok because I don't have the account. But anyway, about 2 or 3 years ago, there was a young woman in my class, young woman from Venezuela in my class, who was very active in TikTok. Now, you have to understand the demographic here. She's like 21 years old, and TikTok is like for that generation, that's how they talk. I mean, they make videos of each other and they send them to each other, and so it's nothing serious that they do. So she asked me if I had ever done a TikTok, and I said, no, I haven't. And she goes, teacher, let's do one. So she grabbed her phone and we did a 2 or 3 minute TikTok. And apparently she said that, I mean, it was just a fun thing that we did together. And then apparently I asked her one day, well, gee, what did you do with it? I mean, and she said, oh, like 5,000 people saw you, teacher. And they thought you were very cool. And I said, well, okay, I think I appreciate that, but I'm going to stay away from TikTok for the time being. But now, wait a minute, I've crossed the line here. Mm-hmm. Now that my friend George is doing TikTok, I'm going to, because if George is doing this,
you just need to be prepared for the responses.
But I mean, if George is doing this, then that must mean that there's a level of seriousness to TikTok that I had never projected before. So I'm going to look into it, George. And I'm gonna, what is it? You just upload the videos then, right? Just
that's
like
it.
you do
that's
with everything else.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, and I've got my YouTube channel.
The YouTube, yeah.
Anybody wants to go to the YouTube channel, you can really.
Well, that's usually where I catch you.
Yeah,
that's usually where I catch you. And so anyway, what can I tell you? So everybody out there, get ready for me on TikTok. And I'll make sure that I dress differently when I go on TikTok. I make sure that I am dressed not like this, old-fashioned businessman here. I'm going to be, how do you dress when you go on TikTok, George? Do you put on something more modern?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a tie.
Oh wow! So
I try to be as professional as possible.
Right.
However, on YouTube, I try to be as relaxed as possible. So I try to project whatever I'm trying to do with the audience.
All right. Well, I'm gonna look into TikTok now that you have crossed that line, and you inspire me to look into it. So to all my friends out there,
we need more conservatives on TikTok. That's for sure.
Well, to all my friends out there who had heard from me that I never do TikTok, well, we may be changing here because the world is changing, as you know.
Well, no, now it's TikTok that's changing.
Right. But now that my friend George has crossed that line and gone into the world of TikTok, what is it? Twik? How do you say it? No, Twitter, yes. But how do you say the other one that you're on? TikTok?
X?
No, the TikTok. Okay. TikTok. Now that you are TikToking, I am going to follow you and follow your footsteps. So I got to check it out. I'm going to check it out. And the next time we do a show, I'll do an update.
YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok.
Well, that's with me too. You can get me on YouTube, on Twitter or X, as they call it now, and Facebook. Yeah, Facebook, it goes up. It goes up as well. But anyway, George, you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time.
Stay safe.
We'll talk later. Bye-bye, George.
Thank you.
All right. Our good friend George Rodriguez, who's down in San Antonio, always a good friend. We do this little get together on Sundays where we talk about politics. And today we talked, of course, about immigration and a few other subjects. And this Mexican ship in New York City that crashed into that Brooklyn Bridge, what a tragedy that is. People got hurt. I mean, their own sailors got hurt because the bridge, there's no damage to the bridge that I know of. But my goodness, what a terrible tragedy for those sailors who thought they were, they were waving at the crowd or whatever, and then they hit the bridge. What a terrible story. We're thinking about them, and and their families tonight. I think 2 of them were killed, which is pretty bad, to say the least. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.